realizing my closure with my narcissistic family, but primarily my narc mother, the more I just came to realize that I'm at my closure with my narcissistic mother and narcissistic sisters. Um, there's gonna be some things from time to time that I know would either flashback. There's always gonna be something that's gonna be a trigger. Even when you get to the point to where you survive the abuse and now you eventually reach the point of closure. And my way of closure is just saying, okay, I said what I had to say to my narc mother. And knowing my narc mother like I do, if I had said anything to offend her or even disagree with her, or even when I was in contact with her, if I didn't want to do anything for her, first, she always likes laying the guilt trip. And then second of all, because she is a coward and cannot face me as a woman, and because she can never get her way with me, she likes to get the rest of my sisters to rally up with her and just form this gang up on me until I comply. And this is when I used to be in contact with my mom and when I was at a much younger age. But looking back at that and reflection on it, I just realized, narcs never grow up. They never do. And the moment that I realized that I kept my own closure of my narc mother was I was watching one of Ollie Matthews' videos about his closure. And the closure that is when you come to the point of saying everything you need to say to your narcissistic mother, father, or both, maybe even siblings if need be. But knowing my narc mother like I do, I had to make a choice between either writing her the letter or telling her in person. And knowing her, she's very good at interrupting and throwing me off balance. And disrupting me to where I can't stay on my own points that I wanted to really emphasize to her and get across to her. So I really felt if I'm going to get this all off my chest and tell her what I really think, and to tell her how much she's hurt me, even though I know she's a narc and she don't care, but just telling her what I think and what I feel, regardless what she thinks and the rest of my narc sisters think, just getting it off my chest was really therapeutic enough. And of course, my loudmouth sister, well, she's not the golden child, she's like an enabler narcissist, and she's next to oldest to me. I just call her lard ass loudmouth, and she had the need and felt like she had to put her sense worth into defending my narc mother. And I remember several videos back I even read parts, or even I read the whole entire letter and shared it. And of course, her whole intent was to deflect everything I said to my narc mother. And I reached a point, I was like, you know what? The longer time's passed, the more my perspective has changed. I was like, you know what? No, I don't really care what she thinks. But just the point and the thought that I had really told my narc mother what the heck I really think and what the hell she's done to me. That's closure enough. Regardless what my loudmouth lard butt sister thought. You know, and you know, but she's always feels like she's so entitled to, it's more like whatever happens to mom is her business, even if it's something strictly between me and my narc mother. I mean, her attitude, well, she makes it her business because, oh, well, it's you know, I've taken care of dad's affairs, so that makes me entitled. And it's funny how narcs come in very many different shades, you know. And realizing I know that my narc mother is nothing but a pathological liar. She'll sit there and tell me one thing, and then go on and tell the rest of my sisters something else, just to keep the shit pot going. That famous triangulation. Believe me, she's done it. And, you know, at this point, I'm realizing I don't care what my mother thinks. And knowing my narc mother like I do, I knew she was going to share that letter with the rest of my narc sisters. I knew that. But the moment you decide you want to go no contact with your narcissistic mother or both parents, you have to really decide how you're going to communicate that. Either through a no contact letter or in person. But if you do it in person, I suggest you get a witness. And even if you decide to do it in a written form, you can be as tactic as you can, but no matter how you write it, narcs are always going to twist your words and deflect what you say. Because my loudmouth sister, when she wrote me that letter, and she also sent me that Quasimodo thing, that dumbass award, you know, that really, you know, that award really belongs to her. And when I first received it, my first thought was sending that certificate back to her and say, well, I believe this belongs to you. But no, that's okay. It's filed away. And, you know, I've feeling pretty good knowing that I'm realizing that I've come with complete closure, because basically I said everything that I wanted to say to my narc mother. From childhood, as far back as I can remember, up until now. And looking back, I knew the last straw was the fact that she did not go to my graduation, and she made every damn excuse not to go. And I was okay with that. I mean, yes, I was initially hurt. I mean, you know, but looking back, sometimes I kind of wondered. I mean, she had told me that when she was in the Philippines, because that's where she's from, she made a claim that she went to law school. And it often makes me wonder if she really did. It really makes me wonder if she ever did. And I remember a while back, she'll sit there and say, I don't need a degree. My degree is my mouth. And so that kind of tells you right there that I really believe she never really went to school. Never went to law school, and if she probably didn't even finish. But anyway, I guess that's something that's always going to be a mystery, and right now to this day I don't really care. But I think what really kind of tells me that maybe she didn't go to law school, or maybe she did but didn't finish, was because she didn't come to my graduation last year, because I was a constant reminder of how big of a failure she is, because she didn't accomplish anything. She didn't accomplish anything academically. And right now I'm feeling pretty good now that I'm realizing I'm coming to my closure. And many of you just keep working away. You'll get there. I'm still on the verge of finding another therapist. I believe I mentioned in the past few videos ago that about the therapist that I was seeing in that situation, and so I'm still taking my time finding a therapist. I haven't quite found one yet, but I know I will pretty soon. Because there's still some things I still need to work through, and even when you come to your closure, there's still going to be some things that you still have to work through. I mean, just the effects of the abuse would always resurface some way, somehow, because of some trigger that may happen. Just like when I mentioned a few videos back that when I took my medical coding test, and I felt pretty confident of taking it, and after I took it, I felt pretty good that I would have passed, and then come to find out when I got the result that I didn't pass, and getting that result that I didn't pass, that there really triggered something. That's something like that. I'm using that as an example. Something like that where I just, believe wholeheartedly I passed, and then get the result, no, I didn't pass. And it triggered up a lot of things, and I worked through those feelings. And I became that inner mother comforting myself and say, okay, it's okay. At least you experienced what the test was like. You know what type of questions that's going to be on it. You'll do better next time. It wasn't an easy test. A lot of people don't even go and take it because of the speed and everything else. But at least I could say I gave it a shot and I gave it a try. And failure, to me, only happens when you don't try or you stop trying. And I'm realizing more and more I'm not a failure. I'm a human being just like anybody else. Also looking back too, I remember my narc mom even told me, and she said this to me about what my late father has said to her, and said, well, the only daughter I'm really worried about is Mary. And that struck something in my mind. I'm like, well, I asked my mother that, and I'm like, well, why is that? It's like, well, all your sisters, they have their own house. And they're living pretty well. So my mom pretty much acted like her and dad really raised some awesome kids. And I'm the problem. Or I'm the one that neither one of them are proud of. Because I don't have a house. I don't have my own house. Really, mother, when the hell is the bullshit gonna end? If I get a house, you're still gonna think of me as a freaking retard. You're still gonna think of me the same freaking way. So you know what? Screw your approval. I'm not chasing it. The moment I decide to go no contact with you, I don't have to prove anything to you or the rest of my narc sisters. And I know that my narcissists are trying their darn best to try to provoke me, even to this day. And I know from some very reliable sources that I'm not going to mention, but I know they're still trying to make fun of me behind my back. And you know what? I reached a point I don't care. They can talk behind my back, and that just shows to me how weak-minded they are, and what cowards they are because they ain't got the balls to tell it to my face. They're spineless, and they're cowards, and lack any real intelligence. And so, really, I don't really care what they think of me. If they want to think of me as I'm still a Quasimodo or whatever, which really, it's so funny, and this really reflects how ignorant my sisters are and what intelligence that they lack. They just like to call you a name, but don't have the brains to look it up before they even use that term. But I've looked up, I said, well, I'm smart enough I can look up what Quasimodo is, know what it is. It's some big guy of Notre Dame. Some type of fictional character. Looks kind of big and stoop and all this stuff, so that's what, because I'm a big person, that's why they call me Quasimodo. I said, well, you know what? I'm a very smart Quasimodo. But you know what? I'm not going to stoop down to their level and sit there and try to proudly wear that label, because I don't care what label they give me. And you know what? I don't have to answer to that label. I know who I am. It took some time, but God has shown me who I am. And I know what God's put in me. And, like I said, I'm not here to make this a sermon, but I do believe in God, and, if it weren't for Him, I would have not gotten this far in my recovery. I still thank Him, and I still praise Him even now. But I remember when my narcissistic mother had said something about my dad being worried about me because I don't have a house. I'm like, well, maybe I don't want the responsibilities of a house. You have to be responsible for your own maintenance. You have to pay property taxes twice a year. Certain things you have to comply with so you don't get held liable if someone gets injured on your property or whatever. It's like, why would I want that kind of responsibility? I'm not. And the thing about it is, what's funny is that they think that I'm going to sit here and put myself in hock and get a house. I'm not going to put myself in hock, and I don't believe in living beyond my means to please my own mother. Say, hey, this is who I am. I said, hey, this is who I am. If you can't accept me for who I am, that's your problem. I'm going to be me. So, really, I'm happy to have a roof over my head. What difference does it make where I live? If I live in a ghetto area, or if I live in a nice area, or if I live in a mediocre area or an average area? What difference does it make? I have a roof over my head, and at least I could proudly say that the roof that I have, that my fiance and I have over our heads, we sure in the hell did not obtain it illegally. We didn't do illegal things. I never lied on any job application about my education or any skills that I have, like my sisters. At least I believe in doing things honestly. I could at least do things honestly and go to bed knowing that I have proof to back up my education. I have my transcripts to prove that I went to the colleges that I say I went. So I could sleep at night. But anyway, I'm really so very happy with the closure that I've came. But I know from time to time, and it's going to be for the rest of my life, I just came to the realization that I'm going to have triggers and flashbacks. Because that's just the effects of narcissistic abuse that I was subjected to, and I'm sure many of you can really kind of relate what I'm going through. But once you get to this stage, and you, like I said, you'll reach it, and that's, you come to the realization that there's going to be some flashbacks, there's going to be some triggers. And like I've mentioned before, or a couple of videos ago, the best way to deal with those is through prayer and through lots of journaling. And then once I get a therapist, start talking about those triggers and how to deal with them, and try to really, really come up with some very good coping strategies to try to minimize its effects. But I miss my youngest daughter terribly, and my narcissistic mother had adopted her because, unfortunately, I wasn't able to afford to take care of her. But it doesn't mean I don't love her. I still have pictures of her from when she was kindergarten on up. I got pictures of her on my phone. And like Ollie, I'm going to make the same statement, that I'm also doing my channel to even show to my youngest daughter that I have not abandoned her. Even though my Narc family would just love to sit there and say that I've abandoned her. But I said, you know what? Okay, mother, you may have that legal piece of paper about adoption, but you know what? You can't change biology. And you can't change DNA. But that piece of paper is no comparison to the DNA and the biology of me and my youngest daughter. And I want her to know she is loved. And that my fiance loves her very dearly. We talk about her all the time. So just in case that my narcissistic family tries to instill some things in her head, and I'm not surprised if they've been doing it. I'm not surprised. But putting my daughter up for adoption was the very hardest thing that I ever had to do, and I didn't want to do. But basically, I was between a rock and a hard place. And knowing as vindictive as my narcissistic mother is, and they all like to find all types of opportunities to make money, it was kind of like, if I didn't sign the adoption papers, and as long as my daughter had lived with them and I didn't sign the papers over, then I knew in my own right mind they'd try their darn best to come after me and try to make me pay child support and even back child support so much to where I'm going to be forever in debt. So, that solves that mystery. And like I said, it was a very hard thing for me to do, and it was very hurtful. And I'm wanting my youngest daughter to know that she'll always be loved. And no matter what, I don't care what that piece of paper says, the adoption paper says, I'm still her mother biologically. And that will never change. And there's not a day that doesn't go by I don't think about her. But I don't think about her a whole lot, but I think of her maybe for like 5 minutes. I think about it, me and my fiance, and we always wonder how she's doing and what she's up to, and wondering if she's doing well. And I know it hurts her, but there's a reason why that even going no contact, I knew I would sacrifice not being able to see my daughter. And you know what? I know, and I don't put it past my narc mother, that she would just love to just hold my daughter over my head to try to control me. And I said, you know what? I'd rather go completely no contact than rather sit there and try to maintain low contact for the sake of my youngest daughter. What? So she can continually control me, so that way she can continually get information about me and my fiance, so that way she can continually channel our business to my narc sisters. Yeah, right. But yes, it's like I try not to think hours upon hours about her, because I know it will devastate me. And I know in some ways, I know it's kind of stuffing my feelings, but I want to hold off on those feelings until I do see a therapist, until I can find the right one. But right now, journaling and praying is what I'm going to do to deal with it until I can find a therapist that can help me work through these feelings. And I remember the very last day that me and my fiance had seen my youngest daughter, we reassured her that we love her and we always will. Always will. And we told her to never forget that. And it really wouldn't come to a surprise. It would not surprise me one bit if my narcissistic mother and my narc sisters are already brainwashing her to make her think that I abandoned her and that me and my fiance don't love her. And my hope is that she comes across this video some way, somehow, to just know that, hey, we still love her, think about her, and, we both believe that God's going to bring her to us one day. And, I believe that's going to happen. So, it feels good to know that I've realized my closure. And my closure was just saying to my narc brother what I really wanted to say. And as far as my largemouth sister that felt like she had a need to stick her nose when really it doesn't, where it doesn't really belong, that her letter is deflected and invalid to me. All what matters is that I told my mom what I thought and what I think and said everything I needed to say. And I have these so-called twin sisters that I still despise even to this day, because I don't even remember if I ever disclosed this in any of my videos in the beginning, but I remember things being very fun and very good. And I remember my childhood being good then, up until my mom took in these twin daughters of hers from another marriage. And at that time, I remember they were 17 years old and they got to go to private school. And the rest of us didn't. And I confronted my narcissistic mother about that. I asked her why. And her excuse was, well, back where they came from in the Philippines, that they were used and accustomed to that. So that was her lame excuse. And I remember the day that they moved into the family and all this stuff, that's when all my childhood stopped being fun. And they started getting the best of everything. And I still despise them both. And you know what? Also, I know I'm throwing a lot of things out, but also, I realize what materialism is and what that's a sign of. Because my narc mother, and especially my late enabling father, they both believed in having the best of everything, the name brand of everything, and high price too. I mean, more like my mom had champagne taste in a Kool-Aid pocketbook, and that's basically what she taught all of us, including myself and including her daughters from her first marriage. And they're all materialistic, and they all like to show off what they got, from Henry Bendel to just the high price stuff, Coach purses, you name it, they have it, and just showing off what they got. Look what I have. And the Apple phones, you name it, they have it too. Am I jealous of those things? No. But you know what though? When I see that they have those things, to me, what that materialism is insecurity and low self-esteem. So in order to lift up their self-esteem and feel good about themselves, they gotta buy all these material things and name brand things just to get that high and to feel good about themselves. And of course, on top of it, at my own expense, for them to sit there and try to make fun of me. Which really now, I don't give a rat's ass anymore. And I know that they like to compare me to like an ugly animal or something, but I know who I am, you know what, and I know who to answer to. It's definitely not to them. It's like I said, it's water off a duck's back, and it's going to always be a water off a duck's back. Nothing that these narcs can say could ever hurt me ever again. Because now for each remark they throw at me, it's going to be water off a duck's back. So, I really want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. And I also want to thank each and every one of you for watching. And by all means, I'll always welcome your comments, maybe any ideas or requests for any videos that you'd like for me to do, because I know I've said it in several videos ago, and I try to reiterate from time to time I'm not a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist at all. But even not even have those credentials, even if I don't have to have those credentials to talk about narcissism. But I would have to say that speaking from experience and living through it and ultimately surviving it, I can share my experience, and I know and I hope it validates some of you out there, because not so much I'm trying to validate myself, but just to get my story out there, for one, to really see that I know that I'm not the only one that's going through this, but also to also help others heal and help each other, try to help those of you that are realizing and that's going through the recovery, and even if I could help you reach your closure, or make you become strong, I'm hoping these videos help. And as all means, like I said, I would welcome any suggestions that you would like for me to put on my channel. Any suggestions is really greatly appreciated. So until then, I'll end this video for now. And as always, I'll always wish you peace and stay strong. And I'll make another video whenever I have the time to, or if something comes to mind, I'll make another one. As always, thank you. Bye. Take care for now.